Systematically, when I work with clients, they do say, "Oh, that's so obvious." And it is true, as human beings, often what lies at our core, the way we behave day to day, is invisible to us. We take it for granted. We can't see it for ourselves. And yet, if we asked our family or our friends or our colleagues what they either value most in us or what they might find most irritating about us, they will quickly vocalize and verbalize things that we can't see because it's so part and parcel of us. We live and breathe it. We don't consciously clock it because we are just subconsciously living it all the time. And I suppose that's a thread that runs through everything I do when I interview people, in retracing their stories. So in telling me why their work matters to them, and it might go back to childhood or teenage years or university or whatever it is. What happens in telling that story, what bubbles up, what is unearthed, are what they also systematically say to me, my clients, are those nuggets, those gems that are just beneath the surface. So it's not like they're discovering anything completely new, but they're raising to the level of consciousness by talking out loud what matters to them, something that they've always taken for granted. So I can give an example of this because this person helped me do it through the power of V. And it's Nick Horton, who interviewed me about my childhood, and I had always seen myself as a writer and an interviewer, the person who asked the questions. But in retracing my story with Nick about how I listened to my father and my mother and their stories, and then later how strangely I went into radio, which of course is about listening and the spoken word, it suddenly hit me for the first time. I am just as much about listening, perhaps even more about listening, than I am about asking questions. And thanks to Nick Horton, what I realised, which has now become my sense of purpose that underpins everything I do, is that I love to learn through listening. And on behalf of my clients, if they can learn more about themselves, get clarity about what drives them, what their purpose is through listening, and it may be listening to me asking questions, or more crucially, listening to themselves back as they watch themselves back on Zoom, that gives me huge pleasure because I know what it's like, how you get that rush. You know, when you learn something new and then you learn something new about yourself, you get that rush of well-being energy. So thanks to Nick, who made me tell my story. He didn't make me, he was very, very nice interviewer, but he alerted me to something that was so obvious. And so I, for the first time, experienced that for myself. And I hope that's what I do with my clients. At least a lot of them say that I help them join the dots. And when they realize what matters most to them, it means they can go on to drive their business in a way that gives them most reward and delegate anything else to their team or drop clients that frankly don't give them reward. And so they go ahead much more sure-footed because they know what makes them happy. And so they can focus on that, delegate the rest, ditch the others and go forth. And that's the amazing thing about unearthing the obvious. It just makes life so much more rewarding.